I appreciate I start most lessons with this is one of my favourite lessons, but this is really one of my favourite lessons because we are now going to be looking at slam bidding. So when I very first introduced you to the scoring, which was week 4, somewhere around there, ages ago, I spoke about part score, I spoke about game, and I spoke about small slam and grand slam. And I essentially said ignore small slam and grand slam exist because all we are focusing on is part score or game. And we have been obsessed, to some extent, with going either part score or game. And the whole aim of the bidding has been, can we make game? Have we got 25 points for game? Have we got a fit to go in hearts or spades? Can we make game? It's all about game versus part score, and which game or part score. What I'm introducing you tonight is a way of bidding beyond game. So when you actually can make more than game. Now, based on odds, this doesn't happen very often. And that's because, typically speaking, you get game or part score. They're, I would like to say, somewhere in the 90%-ish region of hands. You don't often have enough points between the two of you to make almost all, if not all, of the tricks. Okay? So based on frequency, this doesn't happen all that often, though it's probably more often than you suspect based on kind of odds. It's somewhere in the 1 in 10 region where one side can make 12 tricks, there or thereabouts. 12 tricks is known as a small slam, 13 tricks is known as a grand slam. Grand slams are exceptionally rare, small slams comparatively are quite frequent compared to grand slams. Now, a small slam, when we talk about slam bidding, typically most people would be referring to a small slam. So when you talk about a slam, most people talk about it as if that is a small slam, because grand slams are so rare. And if you mean a grand slam, you say grand slam. So essentially we drop the word small. When we're talking about slam bidding, it's almost always referring to the small slam, because that's a relatively achievable target, 12 tricks. In game, diamonds and clubs are worse, hearts and spades are the best, and no trumps are okay. In slam territory, there's very little difference, because you need 12 tricks in all of them. Whereas game in diamonds and clubs, you need 11, game in hearts and spades, you only need 10, and game in no trumps, you only need 9. So the game number of tricks varies, the slam number of tricks does not vary. So we are not as biased as we previously were if we're choosing a slam. Clubs versus hearts is very little difference. The only thing that is different is the baseline points you get. So you get 20 points per trick for a minor, 30 points per trick for a major. So a slam in a minor makes 920, a slam in a major makes 980. So it's very marginal little difference. There's not really much going on, essentially. So we don't hate the minors as much as those people who like clubs and diamonds will be glad to hear. Now, the case of knowing when a slam is on, you need some kind of rough guideline as to when might I sense a slam is on between the two hands, because we've got fairly used to when game is on. We've got 25 points, we've got a fit in hearts. I feel like game in hearts is a good idea. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. But you can kind of have a feeling, you get a feeling for when game is a reasonable bet. You also need some way of knowing when a slam is a reasonable bet. Now, the difficulty with a slam is that you can't lose many tricks, obviously. So when you are in the 12 and 13 trick region, you need an awful lot of power. You need aces and kings. You need them because if the defence have them, you aren't going to make a slam. If the defence have 2 aces only, you're going to lose 2 tricks in the vast majority of cases. Yes, you could have a void for someone who is thinking not necessarily. So what you need is a lot of points. You need even more points than game. So game is about 25 there or thereabouts. As you will have noticed, shape plays a role. So you could make game on only 22 if you had a singleton and blah, blah, blah. We'll have all seen that in the play. The same thing applies for slams, but the points target, if you are thinking of a slam, you want 30 or more to be thinking a slam is on. I want to use the word 30-ish because you can make a slam with fewer than 30 points. You can make game with very few points as well if you get the shape right. If you're interested, mathematically, a small slam can be made with only 4 points if you have extreme shape. That's like 6-6-1-0, and you have the ace of trumps, and they break 1-1, and everything goes nice. Basically, it doesn't happen, don't worry. What I'm trying to say is it's not all about the points, it's about the shape of your hand as well. So if you think we're approaching 30, it's time to start considering slam. Don't be frightened of going, oh, it's only 29, because 29, but you've got a singleton, so roundabout same thing. Okay, so just be aware, be flexible. Hence why it says 30-ish. And for a suit slam, you need a fit. You need a trump suit. So you need at least 8 cards in a trump suit. The more trumps you have, the more loose you can be with your points total. 28 points in a 10-card fit is probably similar to 30 points and an 8-card fit. there or thereabouts. Again, try not to be black and white with these lines, be a bit grey if you can. A no-trump slam, you need more firepower, you need more points to make a no-trump slam. And the reason you need more points is because you don't have the trump suit as a natural advantage. So you need more points. You need more points because you need to make more tricks out of your big cards, not your trump cards, because you don't have trumps. So a no-trump slam is 33-ish. Again, emphasis on the ish. If you have a 7-card diamond suit that's ace, king, queen, jack, that's worth probably more than 10 points, if you see what I mean, because you're going to go down the whole diamond suit. So emphasis on the ish because you can make slams with fewer than that, given your shape. There is a little corny rhyme for a no-trump slam, and that is 33 for 6NT. 6NT being 6 no-trumps. 33 being the prerequisite number of points you should have to go for 6 no-trumps. That's a silly little rhyme, but it might stick in your head, just I'll tell you. So a suit slam 30-ish, no-trump slam 33-ish. Okay? The suit essentially gives you a little bit more leeway with regards to having a trump suit. Alright? Now, given that we are in a slam territory, we're in slam mode, we're thinking about going for 12 or 13 tricks. What happens to the cards, the aces and kings, and the queens and jacks? The aces and kings become more important, and the queens and jacks become less important. And the reason for that is quick tricks matter very much when you're at the 12 and 13 trick total. If the opponents have the ace-king of the same suit, you might have 33 points, and the only 7 points you're missing are the ace and king of trumps. You're not going to make a slam. So quick tricks are very important. If you like, aces become even better still when you go up here, because you need the lead. If you don't have the lead, they're taking tricks, and that's bad when we're talking about slams. So aces become even more important than they already were, and jacks are less important because they very rarely make tricks at the slam level. Obviously they sometimes do, but not often. Given that aces are important, we need a way of bidding a slam. We need a way, rather, of finding out whether we should bid a slam based on how many aces we have. Because if you are missing 2 aces, I don't care how many points you have and how nice your hand is, unless you have a void, I suppose. If you're missing 2 aces, you're losing 2 tricks. Simple as that. So if you're missing 2 aces, you do not want to be in a slam. There's a little reason why 33 points is good for 6 no trumps, and that is because you cannot be missing 2 aces. Because if you have 33, the opponents have at most 7, which cannot be 2 aces. Just if you're interested, that's why I don't know that. So we need a way of asking our partner how many aces they have. Because if you, between you, are missing 2 aces, but you have the rest of the points, you aren't going to make a slam. So aces are absolutely paramount to slam bidding because we need them. We require the aces because we need to control what's happening when we play out whatever contract 7 hearts. So what you use is you use a conventional bid. So I'm going to introduce you to a conventional bid. We've come across this a little bit. We're bidding a suit that means something special. But essentially you are changing the meaning of a bid to make it a specific request. Rather than one no trump meaning I like no trumps, you use a bid to say something specific. So you start using suits and or no trumps to ask a question rather than just saying, oh, this is my hand, I have hearts and diamonds. Okay, so what we're starting to venture into is known as conventional bidding, which is not natural bidding. Natural bidding is you bid spades when you have spades, you bid hearts when you have hearts. That's easy. I'm afraid it isn't like that when we get to difficult bridge. And that is because we use bids to ask specific questions, or we use bids to show specific things. So, what we use is a otherwise unused bid, which is 4 no trumps. 3 no trumps is game. So you would never play in 4 no trumps, because 4 no trumps scores the exact same as 3 no trumps plus 1. 4 no trumps gets 430, 3 no trumps gets 430 if you make an extra trick. So there is absolutely no reason why you would ever play in 4 no trumps. It's no man's land, because you might as well be in 3. Makes your life 1 trick easier. Similarly, 5 no trumps. There's no point in playing 5 no trumps. You don't get your slam bonus, you're just making game harder for yourself. Okay? So what we use is an otherwise unused bid, which is 4 no trumps, because we would never want to bid 4 no trumps to play in that contract. We would always bid 3 no trumps, or some other number of no trumps. 1, 2, 3, or 6, basically. Or 7, I suppose. So what we agree with our partner, this is an agreement, a conventional agreement, so you have to have it, we agree, you and I, because if you don't agree, it doesn't matter what you bid. You agree that if one of you bids 4 no trumps, it suggests A, I'm looking for a slam, and B, I want to know how many aces you have. So those two are very closely related. The reason you're looking for aces is because you're interested in slam. So that suggests you suspect one of these two things is going on. Okay, so you have a fit and 30-ish points, or you have 33 intending on playing in no trumps. All right. You use 4 no trumps at any time, and it carries that message. I am interested in a slam. Tell me how many aces you have. You explicitly agree that is the only time you use 4 no trumps, so it is clear as day. If you bid 4 no trumps out of the blue, your partner should know exactly what it is. I want to be in slam. Tell me your aces. The reason we need this is because if you just blindly bid slam, you might be missing 2 aces, and then you look very silly when the opponent plays ace. And instead of making let's say 1,000 points, you lose, and you could have made an easy game. The one thing about being in slam is that you have sacrificed what would have been an easy game. So instead of scoring your routine 400 or 600, you've thrown that up the wall to try and go for your 1,400. Okay, so you need to be pretty sure you're doing the right thing, or at least have an inkling. All right? You don't just want to be blindly looking for slam and then throwing games left, right, and centre, because games are the meat of where we score. So, given this hand, imagining the bidding were to go 1 spade from us, we would bid 1 spade because that's a normal thing to do. I'm assuming East-West pass because they've got no points. They're probably thinking about their tee or something like that. Now, South bids 4 spades. So what do we expect from South? What have they got, points-wise and spades-wise? They want to be in game, right? How many points have we promised for our opening bid?
12.
12. We've got a lot more than that, but we've promised 12. So for them to think game's a good idea, they've got how many points roughly?
13.
13, there or thereabouts, good 12, exceptional 11, that kind of thing. And spades, they have what?
4.
4 or more. They only know we have 4 spades, because we open 1 spade, we might have had a balanced hand for all they know. So they've got 4 or more spades and 12 or more points. Happy? Yeah? They're bidding 4 spades because they think 4 spades is a good idea. Now, a very bad habit of everybody at the table, but especially the partner of the bidder, when someone bids game, everyone starts putting the bidding boxes away. Oh, we've reached game, right, your lead. The bidding hasn't concluded. North might want to bid on beyond that game. But often, a chicken North will think, well, if my partner thinks game is the limit, then I'll trust them. But they don't know you've got this monster hand over here, that you promised 12, but you've actually got, what, 18? Yeah, 18. So we actually know that 4 spades is probably not enough, is it? 4 spades isn't enough because we actually are approaching the 30-ish point region, aren't we? But we need to check. We need to check how many aces they've got. Now, you could argue and say, well, hang on, I've got 3 aces. We can't be missing 2 aces. Who cares? Well, that's a good point. It's a fair point. We aren't missing 2 aces, unless there's been a really weird deal going on. So we don't actually need to check for aces, but there is a potential we can make all 13 tricks. So you should, as a routine, check for aces, even if you know there is no way you can be missing 2 aces. Okay, it's just good practice. You just have to trust me for now.
What if you've got 4?
If you've got 4, you should still do it, and I'll explain why in a minute. But that's a stupid question, isn't it? But I'll get to it in a minute. So, what I would bid on the North cards is 4 no trumps. Now, you're not arguing over where you're playing. You're not saying, I think no trumps is a good idea, I forgot I only have 3 spades, whoops, sorry. You're saying, I'm interested in a slam. Okay? And that is always the message behind 4 no trumps, whenever you bid it. Alright? Now, South should understand that message and answer your question. Your question is, how many aces do you have? So you need a way of telling your partner how many aces you have. Enter more conventional bids. You need a way of saying, I have 0 aces, 1 ace, 2 aces, 3 aces, or 4 aces. You need a way of answering their question. So, what South is going to do is bid 5 clubs, 5 diamonds, 5 hearts, 5 spades to tell you how many aces they have. And it doesn't mean they have the suit they're bidding. It's a conventional bid. It is simply an answer to the question. 5 clubs does not mean they have clubs. They're answering the 4 no trump question. It's very important you understand that is a conventional thing. Nothing to do with the suit they are physically putting down on the table. It's not, I have the ace of clubs. It's, I have no aces, or whatever you've agreed. Okay? And it's purely conventional. And the agreement that is normal, you'll be glad to know it's somewhat straightforward in that it's linear. Knowing bridge and how tricky this game is for some reason, you could go 0, 3, 1, 4, you could make it hard. But it isn't. It's clubs is none, diamonds is 1, hearts is 2, spades is 3. Now those of you are thinking, yeah, and the 4, where's the 4? what you do is you actually split the club response, because you could say, well, why don't you use 5 no trumps to show 4 aces? I will explain why in a minute. But you say clubs is none or 4, because we want to use these 4 responses to show 5 possible answers. The 5 answers being none, 1, 2, 3, or 4. The reason 5 clubs being none or 4 is fairly safe is because you almost always know if your partner has 0 or 4 aces. If you have an ace or more, they have 0. If you don't have any aces, firstly, you're bidding 4 no trumps with a strange hand. Secondly, you probably know if they have 4 aces based on their strength of their bidding earlier. They went mental, i.e. they've got lots of points, or they bid rather timidly, which means they probably don't have the 4 aces. I have never had it once in my playing career where I didn't know whether it was 0 or 4. You just do, trust me. You could agree to play it any way. You could have a special agreement with your partner. You think, no, I don't like that. I don't like 0, 1, 2, 3. I want it to be 1, 2, 3, 0, or 4. You can agree anything you like because it's conventional. It's nothing to do with the suits we're putting down on the table. It's simply a way of answering the question. I would recommend you play it this way. A, for simplicity, memory-wise. None, 1, 2, 3 is a fairly easy way to remember it. And secondly, you're playing the same as everyone else. So if you played with a different partner, you would not have to brain ache of wondering what's going on. Okay? But you can, because it's conventional, you can agree anything you like. What you realise as you get into the bidding is you can actually change all the bids to mean anything you want, because it's a language.
You know, when you talk about these conventions, how universal are they if you played with somebody from...
It depends what conventions. This convention is worldwide, everyone would know it. Some conventions I'll introduce you to later are more British than they are international. Okay. But typically, everyone would know this one. But yeah, you do need to have an agreement, because if you play with someone from Sweden randomly, they might not play this. So you need to know. Alright? Now, when you get asked how many aces you have, it is as simple as telling them. There is no kind of, oh, well, I've got a void, so I'll pretend I've got that ace. Just tell them how many aces you have. Straight up. It isn't difficult to answer as long as you remember that pattern. Obviously, if you tell them something that isn't true, they're going to bid an incorrect contract, and then it's dangerous. If you tell them you have more aces than you have, bad things will happen. Promise you. Okay? Now, let's say, given that clubs is none, diamonds is 1, blah, 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 let's say our partner comes back with a dream response. Now, I appreciate this is not guaranteed. They are not forced to have the ace of hearts, but I'm going to say they do just because I like things. I like having a nice time. 5 diamonds says they have 1 ace. Alright? So over the 4 no trumps, we bid 4 no trumps because we think, well, the slam is potentially on. I'm thinking of slam time. 5 diamonds says I have 1 ace. Now South has no idea whether that's good enough for North or not. They have no idea. North is in the driving seat. So North is the one who's going to decide how high to go. Spades are trumps, that was agreed with this bid. They're not arguing over trumps. They're just deciding, do I want to be in 5, 6, or 7? Okay? Notice, by bidding 4 no trumps, you cannot play in 4 of your suit. You have sacrificed the ability to play in just game. You can't suddenly go, oh, I don't like 1 ace, let's play in 4 spades. You can't, because you've gone past it. Okay? So you are paying a price to ask this question. So what I'm saying is, don't just willy-nilly look for aces. Don't just do it just because you think, oh, I've got this new convention, I'll just do it. Because you're paying a price. It costs you. You're going a level higher or 2 higher than you actually potentially want to play. So you should only really do it when these conditions are met. There or thereabouts. Okay? Now, let's imagine our partner has the ace of hearts. The ace we are missing, okay? The little gem of a partner they are. So now, we could be thinking, well, if we have all the aces, surely we can go for a grand slam. A grand slam being full 13 tricks. What you find with a grand slam is that you need kings as well. Aces and kings are very important. Aces are exceptionally important for small slam and obviously grand slam. Kings become even more important when you're looking for a grand slam. So you actually need a way to make sure you have all the aces and all the kings. All the aces and all the kings are what you would like/require to go for a grand slam, which is why they are super rare, because it's rare that you have everything. No, you don't necessarily have all the queens or all the jacks, but typically speaking, if you have all the aces and all the kings, a grand slam is a reasonable bet. Reasonable being somewhere in the high percentages, not 100 though, obviously. So you need a way of asking them for kings, and you only ever ask them for kings, i.e. looking for a grand slam, if you know you have all the aces. If you don't have all the aces, there is no point asking for kings, because you are never going to go for 7. You only ever ask for kings if you're interested in 7. And we're only ever interested in 7 if we have all the aces. Okay? So again, don't willy-nilly just bid looking for kings when you think we're missing an ace, but I'm going to look for kings just because I learnt it tonight and it's good fun. Okay? You don't use it unless you really think it's worthwhile. All right? And you only ever look for kings if you have all the aces. So the way we look for kings, rather predictably, is 5 no trumps. Again, that's an unused bid. 4 no trumps is unused, 5 no trumps is unused. All right. And 5 no trumps says, how many kings do you have? Now that confirms the partnership has all 4 aces. I've got all the aces. I'm now being greedy and thinking of a grand slam. I'm dreaming of you having the king of clubs, the king of diamonds, and the king of hearts. What a dream that would be. So 5 no trumps is essentially the same thing as 4 no trumps, but 1 up, and that's because you're asking for kings, not aces. And the replies are identical. 6 clubs is none or 4, 6 diamonds is 1, 6 hearts is 2, 6 spades is 3. Okay? So it's the exact same pattern and the exact same question, except it's for kings, not aces. It's the only difference.
There's a problem, isn't there, if you're potentially wanting to play in clubs?
Yes,
diamonds.
clubs don't work very well. If you ask and they go 6 diamonds, you can't play in 6 clubs. So it's a good point. Be wary when your suits are minors, because often your partner's response can force you a level higher than you particularly were expecting. So again, only really ask for kings if you can really tolerate grand slam. It works perfectly on spades, because you can always bid spades over whatever their response is. Clubs is a bit dodgy, yes.
So 6 clubs equals 0 or 4.
Yes, exactly the same as the aces, but just 1 up. So our partner comes back. Let's say it's really Dreamsville, which it never will. Don't worry, this won't happen to you. 6 spades. So how many kings is that? 3. So our partner has the ace king of hearts, the king of diamonds, and the king of clubs. Okay, now I appreciate I've made it that they have everything we're missing, which, by the way, will not happen to you. So, what contract do we want to be in?
7 spades.
7 spades. Okay, now that's not going to happen very often, I accept that. But the point is, the 4 no trumps set you off. It set the wheels in motion. I'm thinking of a slam, tell me your aces. Now, you don't know you're going for 7 spades at that stage. You're just kind of, coaxing the information out of your partner. What do we think? I've got 1 ace. Oh, good, that's the one I was missing. How many kings have you got? I've got 3 kings. Oh, great, we've got everything.
If they only had 2, would the grand slam be possible? Would you avoid it?
Depends whether you feel lucky, as Clint Eastwood might say. Strictly speaking, missing a king, singular king, you shouldn't go for a grand slam. There are times you could make it though. If you're missing the king of diamonds, for example, you could finesse it if it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So you could take the punt, but you shouldn't, because you're throwing so many points. If you don't make your contract, you've lost a small slam going for the grand slam. So you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't really be gambling.
So if you weren't, then you'd go 6 spades, not 7.
Correct. You would take the non-greedy route of 6 spades, not 7. Notice, by looking for kings, you've signed up for a small slam, whether you like it or not, and that's because you had all the aces. Okay? Now, going to a more routine thing that will happen, partner does not always satisfy you with their responses. They sometimes say things you don't want them to say. So let's just ever so slightly change this hand. I've changed the ace of clubs to a king of clubs, so we have gone from 3 aces down to only 2 aces. Okay, but I haven't amended partner's original response to Blackwood. Oh, I should have mentioned, this 4 no trumps is called Blackwood. You probably guessed that from the title. No, I've no idea where that came from. I assume it was named after someone, or they came up with the name or something. If you refer to Blackwood, almost all bridge players would know what you're talking about. But its full title is Blackwood 4 no trumps. But Blackwood is what it gets commonly referred to as. So South's response to Blackwood was 5 diamonds, which says I have how many aces? 1. So we are now missing an ace. Agreed?
Yeah.
They have the ace of hearts or the ace of clubs, but they don't have both, if we trust them. So therefore, the question now is, do we want to be in 5 spades, 6 spades, or 7 spades? Well, 7 spades is gone, hasn't it? Because we're missing an ace. So 7 spades is a no-no. We have a choice, 5 spades or 6 spades. Now, what I would suggest is with 1 ace missing, you just go for the small slam. There are times where this will go wrong. You miss an ace, and they happen to have the king of that suit as well. They lead the ace, they lead the king, and you lose the first 2 tricks. But that's not very often will that happen. So if you're missing 1 ace, you use Blackwood, you find out only 1 ace is missing, go for the small slam. Don't ask for kings.
So in that case, that would be 6 spades.
Correct. Don't ask for kings, because if you ask for kings, it suggests you are looking for a grand slam, and we are not looking for a grand slam, because we cannot possibly play in grand slam, because we're missing an ace. Okay, with me? So therefore, my bid over 5 diamonds would be 6 spades. You have satisfied me enough to go for a small slam, but not enough to look for a grand slam. This is by far and large the action you will take over their response to Blackwood. Yes.
Can I just ask you, because being a cowardly sort of person, I probably would have said 5 spades. And are you saying 6 spades because the points are so much better that you'll say I'll gamble?
Yes.
I know I can get 5 spades.
Yes.
But
Yeah, essentially taking somewhat of a punt.
yeah.
There is some risk attached, I will accept that. But given the number of points we have, given that 4 of the opponent's 10-ish are in an ace, it's unlikely you will lose another trick.
Yeah.
There is always the chance you will. It's unlikely. So I think missing one singular ace, just go for the small slam. Okay? But basically, this is by far and large what happens. You do Blackwood, they tell you some aces, and that's kind of almost all of them. You're missing one, and you go for the small slam, not the grand slam. There is the time where you are missing 2 aces, and this is why we play Blackwood. It's a way of checking that we're not about to bid a daft slam. So now, our partner has how many aces? None or 4.
None or 4, yeah. But you've got 2, so
Right,
you've got 4.
so there's not 6 aces in this deck, unless it's one of those dodgy magician's decks. So, they have 0 aces, so we're going to lose 2 tricks in spades, aren't we? We lose the ace of clubs and the ace of hearts, so we should bid what?
5 spades.
5 spades. Run, essentially. We bid 5 spades. Our partner, because spades is the trump suit, our partner is aware we are signing off. Whenever you bid the trump suit, that says, I've had enough, this is the level. 5, 6 or 7, whichever one you want to bid. Okay? So the ace response essentially tells you, oh, we're missing 2 aces, whoa, put the brakes on. Or we're missing 1, I'll go for small. Or we have all of them, I'm going to be greedy and look for a grand slam. And that's when you use the king ask. Only when you have all of them. Okay? Right, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Firstly, just want to do a no trump slam one. Now making the South the dealer for this one. Let's say they open a heart. We respond a spade. Just a little side note, even though we've got 1 billion points and our partner's owned the bidding, we don't have to bid 4 no trumps yet. We can take our time, our partner will do something. We might bid 4 no trumps in a minute though. And our partner rebids, let's say 2 no trumps. So our partner has jumped in their bidding. What does South have for their opening bid now? Are they balanced or unbalanced? Balanced, and points-wise they are what?
16 to 19.
More than that? 18, 19. If they were 15, 17, they would have bid what?
1 no trump.
1 no trump, right.
Yeah.
So 2 no trumps is 18, 19. So we have lots of points now. What's that, 15 we've got with North? Yeah, so we have 15 points plus our 18 or 19 from our partner. We are now firmly in no trump slam territory. We have 33 or 34 between us. Okay? With no trumps, the slams are rarer because you require a lot more points. 3 more doesn't seem a lot more, but it's 10% more. That means it's a lot less likely. Okay? But they can happen. Your partner shows a strong balanced hand. You've got all these bundles of points. You can then do your normal as for aces. But your intention is to play in no trumps rather than a suit. Beware. By bidding 4 no trumps, asking for aces, you can never get out in no trumps. If you bid 4 no trumps, it asks for aces. If you bid 5 no trumps, it asks for kings. So you can't get out. So once you decide to go for a no trump slam, you are committed to at least 6. Which is why we need 33 points, so we can never be missing 2 aces. We never have that horrible feeling of I want out and I can't get out. Okay? Because we use the no trumps as the convention. Alright? So you could arguably just bid 6 no trumps with the North cards if you wanted to, if you couldn't be bothered to ask for aces. Could do. But you might as well use 4 no trumps because you might have a grand slam on if your partner's got all the aces and all the kings you need, which is unlikely. Okay? No trump slams are rarer, but it's worth considering. You can make a slam even if you don't have a fit. You just need a lot more firepower. Okay?
Tom, can I just ask, so how would that bidding go? So it's 1 heart, 1 spade,
2 no trumps, yeah.
And so that person knows already I should be saying 4 no trumps.
Because they've got the prerequisite number of 33 between the 2 hands. If you had a fit, you would only need 30. So if they jumped to 4 spades or something, then you would bid 4 no trumps yourself and playing spades and stuff. Okay. Now let's just change this ever so slightly. I'm going to give us what's known as a source of tricks. Now a source of tricks is a hand with a long suit that is running. And that means you can often make more tricks than you should. So, South opens the bidding again. Again, I'm making it the east-west pass. I appreciate that's making my life easy because they might bid a preemptive bid or blah, blah, blah. You tend to find when you've got bundles and bundles of points, they don't bid. That's what you tend to find. They could bid, of course, jumping to 3 clubs to show lots of clubs, blah, blah, blah. If that does happen, 4 no trumps is still slamming, but you can't quite communicate as well. All right, but it doesn't happen very often, I must say. South opens 1 heart. We respond 2 diamonds. Again, you don't need to jump to anything. We've got a decent hand here. We don't need to go 4 no trumps straight away, that kind of jazz. South then rebids 3 hearts, not 2 hearts. So, firstly, how many hearts have they got?
6.
6 or more. Are they balanced or unbalanced?
Unbalanced.
Unbalanced. And their points? 12, 15, 19. Somewhere in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they were weak with 6 hearts, weak being weak opening bid, they would have just rebid 2 hearts, wouldn't they? So 1 heart, 2 hearts would have been up to about 15.
Yeah.
So 1 heart, 3 hearts is 16 or more.
Right.
Okay. It's important you realise these points brackets because now you're going to need to try and get to 25 for game or 30 for slam. So the difference between 12 and 16 could be really important as to whether you're going for 4 or 6 or neither. Alright? So 3 hearts being 16 plus, we have 15, so we're firmly interested in slam. 31 is definitely a slam time with a fit. We have a fit now because they've rebid hearts. So I would bid 4 no trumps now. I would not bid 4 hearts because if you bid 4 hearts, what will partner do? Pass. That's not good, is it? Now, the reason I wanted to point this out is because it's a bit like the exception that proves the rule, in the sense that that diamond suit is exceptionally threatening to the opponents. Once the trumps are gone, your partner is going to play ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, little diamond, aren't they? It's likely that is 6 tricks, alright? So there is a source of tricks where you can just go down the whole suit. What that means is your hand is worth more than it looks like it's worth. Because you have 6 tricks in that 1 suit alone. That's a lot of tricks. That's half the tricks, almost, you need for a grand slam, and half the tricks you need for a small slam. So, when you bid 4 no trumps, if you found out that your partner has, let's say, how many aces are we missing? Not many. They bid 5 hearts, which is how many aces? 2. So if we find out they've got 2 aces, you could merit going for Grand Slam, not necessarily holding all the kings. Because you have all the aces, so in theory, the diamonds will prove a valuable discard suit for your losers where you may be missing a king. Okay? So I just wanted to point this out. Now, I'm not expecting you to be able to adapt your valuations to this kind of level of degree of accuracy yet. What I'm trying to say is, you normally need all the aces and all the kings for a Grand Slam, but with an exceptional shaped hand like that really attractive diamond suit, you can push. Okay, I just wanted to make you aware you can push. Right, so if your instinct is telling you to go for a Grand Slam, but you're missing a king, you think, well, surely that means I can get rid of that loser, then you feel free to push if you want to.
But would you be better doing it in no trumps then?
I think no hearts, because your partner might need to trump something.
Right.
They might need to. I don't know.
Maybe
It's better. If you're going for a slam, it tends to be the safest slam you can go for is the better. Don't be greedy for the extra 10 points that no trumps gets you or whatever.
So
Okay?
do you need to have established that no trumps is what you're going to play in before you start going to Blackwood?
Typically, yes, but you can always, as the person in the driving seat, you can always just correct by bidding straight trumps and they get the message.
Right.
You tend to be the one who decides. The Blackwooder is the one who bids the final contract.
Right.
So unless they're doing something conventional, the Blackwooder will be bidding the final contract, whether that's 5 hearts or 6 hearts or 7 no trumps or whatever. The person who does that is the person who decides, basically. Okay?